share it here so you can see my screen. Are you seeing the blue Tuesday Talks and Tips slide?
Yes, we are.
All right, great. Today we're talking about mentoring members in pathways. During this transition time, all of our clubs, we're still getting people involved in pathways, whether new or seasoned members. And I realized that we needed some help to help get our members started and to keep them going. Because some members got their path, but didn't do much else with it, or maybe they gave a speech. So I came up with what I call the 5 stages of mentoring members in pathways. And today I'll share those stages and give you some ideas for what you can do in those stages. Now, I did put together all of the things I'm going to share in a handout, and I'll give you the link to the handout. So you don't have to write all this stuff down, but if people give additional suggestions, those you can write down, but you don't have to write down all the ideas that I'm going to give you. I'll give you a link and it'll be put together on a sheet for you. Let's get started so we find out what these 5 stages are. The first stage is share basics and benefits. And here's some things that you can do. Explain what pathways is and the benefits. And one of the most interesting things is you want to do it not just once with a big presentation, but do it in different ways throughout your meeting. And I've talked about this before. I call it integrating pathways. So there's different ways to talk about pathways so that they understand a little bit more the different parts of pathways. Talk about the paths. Maybe you highlight one path per meeting. When you introduce a speaker, make sure that you share what their path is. Talk about projects in level 1 so that people understand what that base level is. I know now that the paths are wide open, but I think we still want to recommend, especially our new members, start with level 1, those base speeches as they get started in pathways. But also highlight upper level projects and electives so they get a taste of what's to come in their path, some things that they'll be doing and the opportunities that they have. Share the path articles from the Toastmaster magazine. For a while, they had every issue, they had a whole article about a separate path. And that can be helpful to people if you gather those and have them available for people to read about particular paths, or if they aren't sure about which path that they want to take. Make sure you show your members how to access the navigator, because that has information about pathways and other information about Toastmasters. Show where the pathways information is on the Toastmasters website, where you go to toastmasters.org and then the pathways and where they can read more about each path. Put information about pathways in guest packets so that as guests come, they can start to learn a little bit about pathways. Now, you don't want to overdo it and put information about every single project in that guest packet, but maybe just a 1 sheet with little snippets of each path, just to give them a little taste of what they could do if they joined your club. You want to talk about the flexibility and personalization of the Pathways program to get people excited about it. And as always, you want to share your personal experience, how your path has helped you, the benefits or the fun that you've had with the different projects. Or maybe it's helped you in your work. Maybe it's helped you land a new job or be more confident in your role at work or in your personal life, whatever your personal experience has been in pathways. So these are some things that you can do to share basics and benefits so that people start to understand what pathways is and how it can benefit them. Now I'm going to open it if someone else has some ideas on how you can share basics and benefits in this first initial stage. Does anyone else want to offer any other ideas? These are just some suggestions of what you could do. And you can do other things in your club. But I'll look.
Lori?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Uh, One of the things that might be helpful as an addition is to offer them links or offer them that single link to the Tuesday talks and tips. Just,
Oh,
just telling them that, hey, if you have the time and you want to go a little deeper into pathways or faster than the rest of the club, you might want to take a look at this you can watch it on your phone or while you're, waiting. So make it very un unpushy, if there's such a thing. Just, hey, you might want to see this. I've been trying that in my division, and I've been noticing that some people have been watching it. So that's one basic. It may not be super basic, but it just gives them that option to go a little further.
right. Particularly if they do want to go more in depth, and maybe they're an officer, and we've got a lot of great ideas in those talks for clubs to be successful in pathways. That's a great idea, Michelle.
Mhm.
Any other ideas? Or maybe there's some things in this stage that you're already doing at your club that you'd like to share. Are you a quiet bunch tonight? I know for some of us it's been a long day. All
Yeah,
right.
and I noticed that several are first timers. So let me just quickly mention that if you want to speak, you kind of bring your cursor down to the bottom of your screen. When you do that, you will see a microphone icon at the very lower left corner. You will probably see right now that it has a red diagonal line over it, which means that you are muted. If you click on that microphone icon, then it will turn green and the red diagonal line will disappear. Then you will be audible. So just in case, although once Lori is speaking, we would appreciate that everybody stays muted. But when she stops and offers to answer questions, that's when you want to do that. And also, if you don't want to speak up, but you have a question, right on that same menu bar, one, two, three, about three or four icons to the right, you will see something like a chat blurb or a chat icon. And if you click on that, you will see the chat box appear on the right side. And you can type your question or comment or clarification in there. Thanks, Lori.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Michelle, for explaining all of that for us so that everyone knows where they can mute themselves or unmute and also post questions in the chat. Now, the first stage where we tell people about pathways. For some new members, they'll just jump in right away. Others need a little more time or a little more information. So that can be an important stage. It might be a quick stage for some people and a little longer for others. Now let's look at stage 2. In stage 2 is help them select a path. Because if we just tell people about pathways and then say, okay, go select your path, some people will get a path right away and others need a little more help. So here's some things we can do to help people select a path. We can show how to take the assessment on the Toastmasters website. Now, they recently made a change where new members don't have to take the assessment if they don't wish to. It's still something I'll often recommend if someone's struggling with the path, or to suggest, hey, you could take the assessment, see what it says. You can pick one of the 3 top it will recommend based on your answers, but you can select any of them. But don't assume that they know where to go to select that path or take the assessment. Make sure that we're reaching out and helping people so that they have the assistance that they may need. Now, new members get a link in their orientation email from Toastmasters, their onboarding email. So let them know they're going to get that email and that they can click there to get started because it takes them to a special page. Some clubs are bringing laptops and helping people select paths right in club meetings. Or maybe you stay after or come early to a meeting and help people get started, or even go to their homes or meet at a local library or somewhere. And sit with your members if needed to help them select a path. Some people may need a little more personal encouragement if they're not as familiar with computers or technology, or they just prefer doing it with someone else. You can show or send tutorials. Now we have that Tuesday tips and talks. Something I've started doing, someone will email me a question and I'll just record a little tutorial on Zoom, just a short video, maybe 5 or 6 minutes, depending on what they've asked me, and send it to them. And people get a kick out of that because they get a little video personalized for them, and it can help them. Help members via video or Facebook, right? You can FaceTime or use the video on Messenger. A lot of clubs are doing live demos and club meetings. Maybe if you get a bunch of new members in, maybe you take 5 minutes and do a quick demo of how to select a path. You could have some competitions. Some clubs are doing, if they get several new members at once, maybe say, all right, we'll have a special prize if everyone gets their new path before the next meeting, or different prizes for the first person or second person, etc. If you're a Basecamp manager, you can see the specific date and time that someone selected a path. If you want to do a competition, by going to that second report in the reporting section of Basecamp Manager. When you view the details after running that report, it'll tell you the specific time and date that someone selected path if you want to have a little fun and do a competition. Have members share paths and why they selected that path. And as new members hear that, it can encourage them to select a path. I always did this when I was president of a club. I would look in Basecamp Manager and see if anyone selected a path since our last meeting. And if so, then during my president's time, I would say, oh, look, Joe selected a path. Tell us, Joe, which path you selected and why did you pick that? And then that helps everyone else know what path Joe has, or whoever it is, and see if they have the same path that Joe selected. And then the guests hear that, oh, wow, they're having fun selecting paths, and they hear why that person selected a path. And it could encourage other people to go ahead and select their path. Another idea is have members share what they've learned as they're going through pathways. And again, it's that personal experience that can really make a big difference. Those are some ideas on helping people select a path. I'm going to open it up now and see what ideas others have, or what are you doing in your clubs to help people select the path. So I'll look now. Unmute yourself if you'd like to make a comment, or you can post it in the chat.
Hey, Lori.
Yes, Mary.
Can't the new members do some speeches before they actually pick a path because they're the same thing?
You can do your icebreaker before then, but I think after that, you really want them to get their path. So that
okay. I thought maybe they could go to level 1. I guess they wouldn't be able to get level 1 credit though.
Right, and they can access the icebreaker project outside of any path. If you go to the Pathways section, just go to toastmasters.org, Pathways, and learn more. It has the icebreaker project right there, and you don't have to log in to get it. So that's why they can do the icebreaker project, because they can see all the materials and the resources just like they were viewing it in Basecamp right there, and they can do that before selecting a path. Anyone?
Yeah, Lori, remember I was talking about sharing the link with new members, sharing the link to our YouTube videos. There's one link about picking a path, and I am trying to post it. There you are. There, I just posted it on the chat. This is the George Marshall session where he talked about how to pick a path. The entire webinar was on how to pick a path, and he uses the analogy of different flavors. And if you have only 3 flavors, vanilla, strawberry, and chocolate, then it's very limited. But if you have several flavors of ice cream, then it gets a little confusing. And he tried to break it down into 4 categories. But that would be something that could be shared at this level when you're mentoring members to choose their path, because it's kind of a fun session. It's easy. It's not like the Toastmasters website where there's so much information that you can actually get lost in the information.
Yeah, Michelle, could you post a link to the?
I did. It
Well, you
is.
did to his, but will you post the link to the general Tuesday talks and tips? That way, people.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Thank you. I'll do that in a short while. Yes.
We have 16 different videos so far. Today is number 17.
Yes, and do you know the really cool thing with that magic link? I call it the magic link, is whatever is added, if you've saved that link or bookmarked it or something, when you click on it the next time, you will have the 17th or the 18th or the 19th. Anything that's added on YouTube, that link will pick it up because it is the search or find hashtag Tuesday Talks and Tips.
All right, looks like we have a comment from Dan. He's been looking for ways to encourage people, and he likes the idea of having people talk about why they picked their path. So thank you for that comment, and yes, it's a lot of fun to hear about how people picked it, and it does seem to encourage other people. So thank you for that comment, Dan. All right, so we've done 2 stages. We've shared basics and benefits, help people select a path. Now we're on to stage 3, which I call get them started. And so many times people have a path and then they don't go any further. So we need this next step to make sure that they get started with their speeches. And so we want to make sure and schedule members for their icebreaker speech. We want to encourage them. If we're their club mentor, get them scheduled as VPE, get them scheduled as soon as possible. Show them how to get into base camp. Again, don't assume that they know how to get into the system and to find their speech, find their path, and to get started on their project. Show them how to turn off pop-ups for base camp. And then give what I call a blue tile tour, is where you go to the base camp homepage where it's got those 5 blue tiles, including access your path and speech evaluations and feedback, and give them a little tour of those tiles so they understand the basics of working in base camp to get them started. Make sure you show them how to access their path so that they know how to get their project information. Explain projects in level 1. Show them how to launch projects and how to go through them, and where to find that evaluation form. It's so important, so they understand that they need to bring that evaluation resource to the meeting when they give their speeches. Show them how to get their resource files, because there's different files in different projects. For example, in the icebreaker project, there's the speech outline file, and that's really helpful, particularly for new members, as they start putting together that first speech. It helps them think about how to organize their speech and transitions in between those different points. Show them how to get the evaluation forms in their project, but also in the speech evaluations blue tile, where they can access all of the evaluation forms for all of the projects. And if they use a website for their agendas, such as Free Toast Host or Easy Speak, they have those forms on there right there as well. But we want to make sure and show them so they understand that they need to bring the form, and there's different ways that they can access that form, so that they make sure they bring that with them. And this last one, encourage those starting at the same time to work together. This is something that, an idea I had because of an experience at one of my clubs. We had 5 members join within a month of each other, and they've kind of formed their own little group or pack, if you will, and they encourage each other, and they're a little competitive. Who could get their icebreaker first? Who could get level 1 first? They go, hey, I'm doing my next speech. When's your next speech? When are you going to get done with this project? Some of them are in level 3. There's a couple in level 2. They're upset now because they're behind everyone. So they kind of form this little group where they support and encourage and are going through their paths together. So if you've got new members starting at the same time, have them help each other and go through their paths together. That could also be a good time to encourage a seasoned member who hasn't started with Pathways. Maybe you say, well, why don't you help this group get acclimated to the meeting and the roles and start Pathways with them, and then they can all learn together. So that could be something fun to do in your club. And that's stage 3, some ideas for stage 3 to get people started once they have that path. And I'll stop now and open it up for any other suggestions of getting people started. I see there's a couple things in the chat, so I'm going to look at that as well. And someone likes that phrase for a tour, the blue tile tour. Perhaps I should trademark that.
Yeah, I really like that. The blue tile tour.
As a
Lori?
nice alliteration. Yes.
Yeah, I recently bought something from Toastmasters. Remember when we were under the old system, the legacy, that we used to have things that they called progress charts, where you could list the members' names and where they are. Toastmasters had a special, I think it's still to the end of the month, where they have one for Pathways now. They have a Pathways achievement chart, and you can list all the members. You can list their mentor, which path they're on, and check off when they completed each level. So I'm going to start filling that out for my clubs and posting that at the meeting.
Yeah, tracking is important. In some of my clubs, we tend to track it online. And I have, and I'll give you a link to my resources at the end of this. So I have an online, it's on Google Drive that you can use as well. Because for some clubs, they don't have a space for their stuff, so they try to make sure and carry around as least amount of stuff as possible. So the charts are nice, or doing it online, because tracking is so important, and we'll talk about that as well in one of the other stages. It helps the VPE know who was where, and the officers as they're thinking about the DCP, and it's a way to encourage each other as well. Now, Carolyn says we encourage our members to provide mutual aid, and that's a very basic tenet of Toastmasters, isn't it? Where we're encouraging and helping each other. So yes, that's an important point as well, Carolyn. And Mary says, how about online clubs? How do you get evaluation form to your evaluator? Well, you could save the file, Mary, and email it to your evaluator. And of course, if you're the evaluator, since you can access all of the evaluation forms in that speech evaluations blue tile, you can also get it without the member sending it to you, as long as you know which project they're doing. And I don't know, Michelle, you'd have to answer this, whether some of the online clubs still use free Toast hosts or Easy Speech.
Yeah, it's about split. Well, not exactly, because then there's a handful that use the WordPress for Toastmasters. I think there's about 3 or 4 that use that, and then an even split, more or less, Easy Speak and Free Toast Host. Free Toast Host, as you know, because you were the impromptu presenter for Free Toast Host, or no, you,
Yeah,
I remember it was Twitty. It was Trish who was the impromptu presenter, because you were really under the weather that day. But as you know, Free Toast Host has the evaluation resource right on the meeting agenda. If you are the evaluator, you get to access that, and also the Toastmaster, of course. In fact, it can be set in such a way that everyone can access the evaluation form, so that there's no need to email it. If you want to look at it ahead, you can just log into the agenda and click on it. So there's several ways of either going into Basecamp, as you mentioned, or looking at it or downloading it from the Free Toast host.
Now, I've seen, I'm not a member of online clubs, but I've visited numerous ones of them, and sometimes I've seen them put it in the chat because you can attach files in the chat. Because if the speaker doesn't indicate which project they're doing, if you're the evaluator, you don't know which form to use.
Yes, and I have one club. I love the club, but it's a very impromptu club. So yes, that's our best go-to. We just load it on the chat, and go ahead with your discussion, and you guys, everybody will just see an evaluation form pop up into the chat box, and when you click on it, it will open up as the evaluation form. I'm just going to grab one now, but go ahead with the rest of your session.
All right. Any other comments on getting people started or questions on that? All right, well, once we get them started, sometimes they get stalled out there. Maybe they give their icebreaker speech, but then they don't go any further. So I realized that it's not enough to get people started. We want to do stage 4 and keep them going. So here are some ideas on keeping people going in their paths. You could share a Pathways tip of the week, just to get people more comfortable with the system and with Pathways. Because even if they do their icebreaker, they may still not be comfortable with how the projects and Basecamp works. Have them sign up for meeting roles, because that's just as important as giving speeches. Doing some of the different meeting roles so that they get the experience and the different gains that those roles provide as well. Help them with their speeches. I had a club meeting tonight and all our speakers canceled. So I did a little impromptu workshop on finding stories from our lives. One of the members thanked me. She said, I've been stuck. I didn't know what to do for my next speech, but because I gave them a little booklet and they could write down story ideas, now she's got some ideas. So helping people with speeches can help them keep giving those speeches and provide feedback and encouragement on those speeches. It's important not just for our official evaluator, but it's nice if you get feedback from other people as well. We want to make sure and show people how to mark that icebreaker project complete. This isn't quite as crucial as it used to be since we now have access to all of the projects, but they will need to know how to mark those projects complete so that they can submit the level completion. So that's still an important thing that we want to make sure that people know how to do. Review the remaining level 1 projects. People can be a little confused, particularly with that evaluation and feedback project, because there's 3 different things that you do in that one project. And that can be a little intimidating and confusing at first. So make sure that we're explaining what those projects are. Help them with that first speech and speech evaluation. They've probably seen other people do it at least a few times, maybe several months, but it's kind of scary, that first one. For many of us, it's still scary giving speech evaluation. So help them with that first speech evaluation. And if you haven't seen this, there's a tutorial how to evaluate that's in Basecamp. You can either search for it in the search box, or if you click on the speech evaluations tile, it's at the top right corner as you're looking at that page. And that's a great addition to what's in the evaluation and feedback project that gives information on the Pathways evaluation form, and you get to practice doing an evaluation on a short speech. Make sure your members are seeing that. You want to show them how to submit their level completion once they've done all the projects in a level. and then talk about and review projects that are coming up in their levels 2 to 5 based on their path. And then, of course, that last project, reflect on your path, show them that how to do that. And that's last because they do that after they complete everything else in their path. So you're helping guiding them through their path to get them excited about it, to tell them what's coming, help them know how to open up different projects. They can work on projects ahead now or think about ideas for the projects to complete those projects that are coming up ahead, even if they're still working on level 1. So those are some ideas on keeping people going. I'm going to check the chat. I see we've got some comments.
I shared a sample of the evaluation or of how it's uploaded. And actually during the meeting, if your evaluator is fast, he or she can actually send the evaluation, the filled out evaluation back to you through the same means right there on the chat.
Okay. Now, Mary had a comment. Thank you, Michelle, for putting that in there. Mary had a comment. I thought Basecamp Manager is supposed to mark speeches complete. Actually, the Basecamp Manager can't in the system. The member has to do it. After you complete your project, you go into your project and you've answered a few questions at the beginning of the project in the assessment. To get the system to mark it complete, you have to answer those same questions at the end and then click that submit button. And it's really important to click that submit button, and then the system will mark that project complete. And once, all of the projects in your path or in that level are marked complete, then you'll have access to submit the level completion section so that the VPE can approve it once verifying everything's done. And then the VPE needs to submit the education award on Club Central so that the member gets the official recognition in their profile. And then it shows up on the club's Distinguished Club program. But the member is the one that goes through the project answering the assessment questions so that that project is marked complete by Basecamp. Does that help explain that, Mary?
Basecamp Manager's supposed to do. You hear about that.
No, they can't mark the projects complete, but they can approve the level completions. That's the
So,
Basecamp managers do.
okay, does Vice President Education, could they be the same person or?
The Vice President Education is one of the Basecamp managers, but only the member can mark their projects complete. If someone has the printed materials, that's a case where the VPE or one of the Basecamp managers does go in and mark things complete, but that's only with printed materials. For the online paths, only the member can mark their projects complete within their path. And then the Basecamp manager marks the levels complete or approves the level completion request.
Yeah, Lori, may I just confirm with Mary? Mary, I'm a triple or what? 1, 2, 3. I'm a quadruple Basecamp manager. So I am a Basecamp manager for 4 clubs. And I definitely confirm what Lori said. Basecamp managers can go in. They can take a look at where the member is. Like this morning, one of my members got lost. She was saying, I can't, how come I'm not seeing a completion? So I went in and I told her, well, you're not seeing because you already completed it last week. So we can do that. We can go in and see, but we cannot mark the speech completion because remember, to mark a speech completed, the member has to answer the post or the after assessment. We can't do that for the member. The member has to do his or her own assessment. Yeah. Back to you, Lori.
Any other ideas on keeping people going? Questions on that? All right, I don't hear anything or see anything here. Now we'll get to stage 5. Now notice stage 5 is represented a little differently. Instead of a box, it's an arrow going underneath the other stages. Our stage 5 is recognition and celebration. And this is something that you do throughout the entire process, which is why it's an arrow underneath. Because we always want to give recognition and to celebrate people's progress in pathways. And we have lots of ideas for that. Give verbal recognition, or maybe even a certificate when someone selects a path. Now, asking someone why they selected their path, that's part of verbal recognition. A certificate would be fun, particularly I think with new clubs, when everyone's trying to get their path, doing a certificate could be fun. With it, present level completion certificates when someone completes a level, and the Basecamp manager can print that out for the member in the Basecamp manager section. Some clubs are making their own special certificates as well. You can give Toastmasters swag or other gifts along with the level certificate. At one of my clubs, when someone completes a level 1, we give the Toastmasters tote bag along with that. There's also path pins and also level and pathways ribbons or path ribbons, so you can give those out when people complete a level or a path. With the path pins, there's a pin when you start a path. There's even different little level things that you can that go attached to the pin, so you can show which level you're on. And then there's a separate path pin that shows that you're proficient, you've completed it. You can show the path and completed levels on name tents. A lot of clubs do that. So at my clubs, we have the logo for everybody's path. And then we put, if they're BC1 for Visionary Communication 1, etc. So that can let people show that which path they have and what their progress is. You could have an icebreaker speechathon. Do something fun and change the meeting up a little bit and get a whole bunch of people going. Submit education awards in Basecamp. That's part of that recognition. They completed that level. Now we want to make sure and submit those awards in Basecamp so that they get their official education award in their profile. Have members share their experiences. And I've said this throughout, it's a very important thing in Toastmasters. If someone completes their level, don't just say, here, you completed your level, congratulations, but maybe interview them for a couple of minutes. Say, well, what was the best thing about this level? What did you learn in your projects? Or maybe you want to say, you know, what was tough about getting started with level 1 and what helped you? And your other members can hear that and maybe be encouraged and be excited about pathways as well. So make sure to have members share their experiences. Perhaps you do a newsletter or a blog on there. Have people write up their experiences. Submit member award articles in local media. In one of my clubs, we do this. Whenever someone gets an education award, we write up an article and we have the member supply some information such as, you know, what did you learn in this either manual or now pathways level, and why did you join Toastmasters? And it gives them recognition. It also gets your club name and your club in the local media, whether it's newspaper or a local Facebook or some other community blog as well. You can post progress on your club or district social media to give that recognition and celebration. Track and share member progress, and we've talked about that with the pathways charts, or also tracking it online so that you know where everyone is and know when people are ready to finish a level or in where they're at on their path, and encourage them as well. You could have contests or competitions. Maybe you want to see how many level 1s you can get completed by before the end of December, just so you can get that education goal a little faster, perhaps, for the level 1s or whatever levels. Or maybe you want to see who can get their path completed this year. You can do recognition when sharing DCP updates. Sometimes we give the Distinguished Club Program update and we say, well, we have 4 points. But how did you get those points? Maybe you have a point because Bob, Harry, Sally, and Joe completed their Pathways level 1. I always like to attach and talk about the people, what they did in order to achieve that goal, because it's the club working together that gets that Distinguished Club Program goal or point. Some clubs do monthly or quarterly education celebrations so that you get immediate recognition, but then you also recognize as the year goes on how much everyone has done. So there's a lot that you can do in celebration and recognition. I will open that up if people have more ideas on celebration and recognition as well. I see we've got some things in the chat. We've got one on the evaluation form. So any questions on or other comments on what you do for recognition and celebration in your clubs? And I'm sure people do a lot of other different things as well.
Yeah, Lori, may I add that for officers who are really busy and they might be thinking, oh, we don't have time to create a certificate, or clubs that have no budgets to buy pins and all that, you know, swag stuff. One of the things we do, and it seems to be very effective, is just the email from Toastmasters International, the one that says, a member of your club has submitted such and such completion, you know, with the big Toastmasters logo. We just share that. We forward it to all the club members and say, hey, let's all congratulate so and so. It seems to trigger others going, what? You're already on that level? How fast? I gotta catch up. And so yeah, it also works, but it's it's zero cost because you just forward the email, and then of course during the club meeting you can have a a printout or something. But that one is almost instant because the moment the email comes in, you can forward it to all your club members or club mates. Yep.
All right, great. Any other ideas or suggestions? I guess not. You're a quiet bunch tonight. Here. So these are the 5 steps we've gone through. Sharing basics and benefits, helping people select the path, get them started, keep them going, and then throughout the whole process, recognition and celebration. And this really seems to help people get started and continue to make progress on their plans. Sometimes life gets in the way and they don't get their progress as quickly as they want to, but then that happens to all of us. That happens to all of us sometimes, so that's expected. But we just keep going, go to our meetings, do other roles, and do our speeches when we can. But it's really important to encourage each other and help each other out as well. Any other ideas or questions? Give you one last chance just in case I see something in the chat. And thank you for Carolyn. She's appreciated learning some of these tips as well. So thank you very much of that. And I think that's what's really helped this transition with Pathways. It's been a little chaotic at times, but we've all, as a worldwide community, come together and helped each other out. And I think that's really changed us for the better. because we're more interconnected with Toastmasters around the world, at least I think, in a way that we weren't before Pathways. Because I had never chatted or talked with people in South Africa, or Toastmasters in South Africa or Australia or all over the place. So it's been a lot of fun interacting with Toastmasters everywhere. Now, this is my information. You're welcome to contact me if you have any questions. I'll put these links in the chat. I did make a handout for this session, so I'll put that link there, as well as my link for some of the resources I've put together. And if you have any questions, you can email me at pathways@62toast.com. And I'll put these in the chat. I'll check the chat. I see a couple more comments. Rashmi's asking for the link of the presentation. I think Michelle put a link into the search query. So I'll copy that and put it back in. If you do this link, it'll have the link to every single one of the videos, as well as Michelle, either tonight or tomorrow, will
Post the
yes,
link
the
on
link.
the Pathways Forum, which I am also just now putting a link to. And we're going to play that little express game we do, Lori, where if they click on the Pathways Forum, discussion forum request to join now, they bypass having to answer the questions, because our moderators, we have a team of moderators, and we've come up with questions just to sort out that we're not having non-Toastmasters joining. But if you're on this meeting right now and you click on that link, I know, because I know that this is the only place where you're coming from, so you don't have to answer the questions. I would approve you automatically. And what else? I posted that link. Okay, is it there? And is it Mabel or Mary? Let me see. Let me just answer her instead of typing. Yeah, Mabel, you're right. It's really good to have the evaluation forms ahead of time. It's just that some clubs are a little bit less, how do we put it? They don't have as much lead time sometimes. If somebody sees that there's an available slot, they want to speak. So the evaluation forms have not been emailed ahead of time. That's why we just use the chat in Zoom. And the example that I shared of a filled out form, she was just amazing. I guess she types really fast or something. So she posted it right back on Zoom while the meeting was just ending. That doesn't happen often, though. It was just impressive, and I wanted to share that. We have a
It,
couple of questions. Oh no, it was my stuff that I posted. Okay. Yeah, Mary, was that you?
oh, yeah, you know, that one tip about finding those generic evaluation forms, I got that tip here and I went and dug them up. That would be one that I guess you could use all the time. Wouldn't have to worry about finding all these forms.
Yeah, that would be part of Lori's, what did you call that, Lori? Blue tile tour?
A blue tile tour.
Yeah, that would be part of the blue tile tour.
I think the generic one is good if you're not doing a particular project or in an emergency, but the project evaluations have specific information about what the project is, and I think it's important for the evaluators to see that. So I would still personally recommend that as much as possible, do the specific evaluation for that project. So that way that helps the evaluator give a better evaluation, because they're evaluating to what the purpose of the speech for that project is. And I'm done with my presentation. So Michelle, I'll turn it over to you.
Oh, thank you so much. Everyone, if as long as you're not in a really noisy background, please go ahead and unmute yourself so we can give Lori a really big, resounding round of applause. Let's do this. Thank you so much, Lori. Thank you. Wow, I mean, I cannot believe that I've been on Pathways for more than 2 years. I've completed so many paths, but every time I listen to Lori, I learn something new. Well, actually, not singular, plural. I learned several new things. I really like the way that you structured 5 steps. And I was guessing when I was looking at the number 5. I think if some of you would look at the chat, I posted yay, hey, because I was thinking we need to have recognition. And then Lori says the number 5, and it's recognition. I'm like, yay, that's so true. And you presented it so concisely. It's easy to remember. Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you so much, Lori.
Thank you.
And I see some familiar faces, and I see a couple of new faces, or names, because some of the faces I don't see the faces because we have the video off. But if this is your first time attending one of these Tuesday talks and tips, yeah. Was it Errol speaking, or who was that? Willie? Somebody said something. I'm sorry, I did not hear the complete sentence. I think was that Errol trying to say something? Okay. So anyway, next week, before I know others have to leave it. We were getting to the bottom of the hour, but I wanted to mention that next week is going to be another interesting session. We will be talking about, dun dun dun, drum roll, how to choose your HPL project. Or I'm still trying to think of a short, concise title. Should it be how to choose or choosing your HPL project, but something to that effect. And it's most likely going to be a panel discussion. In other words, I will moderate it, and I will be inviting people who have done at least one HPL project, maybe more, in Pathways. And the little secret is the HPL project in Pathways is very, very, very similar to the HPL project in the traditional program. It's just that the forms are online rather than in that nice glossy manual. But I've had a lot of questions, people asking about the HPL project. So that's going to be our topic for next Tuesday Talks and Tips, examples, and just really how do you do your HEL project so you're not just ticking the boxes, so that you actually benefit an organization, either your club, your area, your division, your district, or some other organization and you feel that satisfaction, something that is not just for HPL, but is a real project that develops your leadership skills. So that's going to be our session next week. So at this point, is there any final question, comment, or clarification before we adjourn the meeting? Or not adjourn the meeting, before we end the session. We're so used to saying adjourn the meeting before we end the learning session. Any question, comment? Is it Carolyn?
Carolyn, yes.
Carolyn, I think I've seen you before. I'm not sure if it was here or was it in
Denver?
Yes, there you are. I think you actually attended, I think, one of our
Forum meetings, yes.
Yes. So I think this is your first time to attend the Tuesday Talks and Tips, or did you attend?
It is, because I have been mentoring a club that meets at this time.
Oh, wow.
And I decided that they needed to be on their own a little bit more. And I will check back with them to see how it went. But this was for me.
Yes, we need to give something to ourselves so that we can give more to others. Need to take care
Correct.
of ourselves. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I'm so gratified that you chose to join us today. And I'm sure the topic of the session was partly, one of the reasons that decided you to come because it's about mentoring.
That and other ways to talk to our members about pathways, about getting over that first hump of finding, selecting a path, getting in there, what they can do, and how they can be supported while they start their journey.
Well, I hope that you got a lot of that information from tonight, but also, as I said, that magic link to the YouTube recordings, because once you save that on your browser or save that link, you can just go back to it anytime and just go through and pick whichever path, or it's not, sorry, whichever session you want. And perhaps, maybe because we have a minute or so, let me just demonstrate what you will see if you click on that on you on that link. See, what you will see is all of the Tuesday talks and tips, and you can look basing on, this is the one that I was saying, how to pick a path. This was episode 3. But then you can just see based on the titles, you can see which sessions might be helpful for you at that time. And so we have 16, and this is going to be the 17th. So this is really a very helpful tool. And I guess I'm happy to share it because I discovered I really wasn't good with hashtags before. And I said, okay, what is a hashtag going to do? And that's what it did. It pulls up everything. Well, at this point, if we have no other quick question or comment, I will adjourn. You know what I mean. I will end the meeting. I will end the learning session with grateful thanks to Lori and also acknowledgments to everyone who joined tonight. We will see you all again next week, we hope. Tuesday, same time, that's 7 p.m. Pacific time. The invitation, event invitation, will always have a link to your time. You can click and see it there. So thank you again, everyone. I will now end the recording.
Thank you.